The massive council chamber fell silent as John Miller stepped to the podium. Light from 3 different suns streamed through the crystal dome above. Around him, representatives from over 200 alien species waited. Some looked bored. Others seemed amused. A few appeared concerned. John straightened his blue Earth uniform and looked directly at the Vraxian High Chancellor. The 8-foot-tall insectoid being clicked his mandibles impatiently. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," John began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "For 10 years, I have stood in this chamber as humanity's voice. Today will be the last time." A wave of whispers swept through the chamber. The Vraxian Chancellor's compound eyes narrowed. "The nations of Earth have voted," John continued. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council." The whispers turned to laughter. The Draconians, with their scaled faces, laughed the loudest. The Mora, floating in their anti-gravity chambers, spun in circles to show their amusement. "Humans," said Chancellor Vrek, his translator turning his clicks into words. "Always so emotional. What do you hope to achieve alone in this dangerous galaxy?" John held up a data chip. "This contains our formal withdrawal. All human personnel will leave Council space within 1 standard day." High above the Council planet, Captain Susan Taylor stood on the bridge of the Earth Ship Defender. 30 more human ships waited nearby. Her orders were simple: bring everyone home safely. "Status report," Susan said to her crew. "Council defense grid is tracking us," replied Officer Ben Williams. "But weapons are not active." "Keep alert," Susan ordered. "We leave as soon as the ambassador returns." Back in the chamber, the Silari representative floated forward, her tentacles rippling with color. "The humans have contributed so little," she said. "Our trade networks will hardly notice your absence." John refused to show anger. "Perhaps. Yet in the past decade, humans designed your new FTL communication network, created medical treatments for 12 previously incurable diseases, and introduced AI enhancements used in every council ship. Technologies we could have developed ourselves, given time," said the Draconian representative. "Then you'll have no trouble maintaining them without us," John replied. The Vraxian Chancellor rose to his full height. All 8 feet of him towered over John. "You humans come from a death world," he said. "Your kind developed in violence and chaos. The Council accepted you despite your primitive emotional nature. Now you prove we were right to doubt your readiness for galactic society." John looked around the chamber. Most faces showed contempt or amusement. Only a few, mostly younger species, showed concern. "For years, the Council has taken human innovations while treating us as lesser beings," John said. "You've restricted our colonies, taxed our trade unfairly, and excluded us from decision-making. We've decided our future lies elsewhere." "And where exactly will that be?" asked Chancellor Vrek. "Alone in your tiny corner of the galaxy." "That remains to be seen," John answered. "But remember this day, because I suspect the Council will soon discover just how much humans have been quietly holding together." The Chancellor waved a clawed hand dismissively. "We wish you luck, Ambassador Miller. You'll need it." John turned and walked out of the chamber without another word. The heavy doors closed behind him with a final thud. In the hallway, his assistant Greg Patterson waited with their bags. "It's done," Greg asked. "It's done," John confirmed. "Call Captain Taylor. Tell her to prepare for departure." As they walked toward the shuttle bay, John passed dozens of human staff members already heading to their ships. Engineers, scientists, medical personnel, AI specialists, all leaving their posts. "Do you think they'll realize what's happening?" Greg asked quietly. John looked back at the closed council doors. "Not today, but soon enough." 6 hours later, the last human ship left council space. On the Defender's bridge, Susan Taylor watched the council's central planet shrink on the view screen. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. As the ships jumped to FTL, no one in the council noticed that small systems began failing almost immediately. It started with minor glitches in the communication network. By morning, it would be much worse. The day humanity departed, everything began falling apart. 6 months passed since humanity's departure from the Galactic Council. On Earth, Lisa Chen sat at her workstation overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Her apartment in New Seattle offered a perfect view of both the water and the massive space elevator in the distance. Lisa's communication panel lit up with an incoming call. The ID showed it came from Council Space. "Accept call," she said, curious who might be contacting her. The screen flickered, and the blue face of HFY appeared. Lisa recognized her former colleague from the Council's communication division. "Lisa, thank goodness I reached you," HFY said, his voice distorted by static. "We have serious problems." "I don't work for the Council anymore," Lisa reminded him. "I know, but the network is failing. 3 major hub worlds went completely dark yesterday. Nobody can figure out why." Lisa wasn't surprised. She had designed much of the faster-than-light communication network that connected Council worlds. What the Council didn't know was that her systems required regular updates only she understood. "The Council should have hired replacement engineers," Lisa said. Sorkel's image broke into pixels, then reformed. "Nobody understands the system like you do. The Chancellor won't admit it publicly, but we need human help." On the Council capital world, Chancellor Vrek faced an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species shouted questions at once. "Silence," Vrek commanded, his mandibles clicking. "The communication disruptions are temporary." "My world has been cut off for 3 days," said the Bolian representative. "Our trading ships can't navigate safely without network updates." Another representative stood up. "The medical database is corrupted. We can't access treatment protocols." Kilator, an elder Volney with gray skin and wise eyes, spoke calmly. "Perhaps we should consider that these systems were maintained by humans." The chamber erupted again. "Ridiculous," shouted the draconian representative. "Are you suggesting those primitives sabotaged our network?" Kilator shook her head. "Not sabotage. Dependencies. Human engineers built these systems. Without their maintenance, the systems deteriorate." Chancellor Vrek's compound eyes narrowed. "We will not beg humans for help. I'm ordering an investigation into possible sabotage." Back on Earth, President Maria Rodriguez met with her cabinet in the White House. John Miller, now Earth's Foreign Relations Director, presented the latest intelligence. "Council communication systems are failing across the galaxy," John explained. "They've lost contact with at least 7 major worlds." "Are they asking for our help?" Maria asked. "Not officially," John replied. "Several former colleagues have reached out privately. The Chancellor is telling everyone it's temporary." Secretary of Defense William Puttle spoke up. "We're receiving reports of stranded ships and isolated colonies. There could be humanitarian concerns soon." Maria nodded. "Prepare aid ships, but keep them in our space for now. The Council needs to officially ask for help." That evening, Lisa received a formal message from the Council. It wasn't a request for assistance, but a demand for all technical documentation related to the communication network. Lisa forwarded it to the President. Minutes later, her communication panel lit up again. "The answer is no," President Rodriguez told her. "Those were proprietary human designs given freely during our membership. If they want help now, they need to ask properly." In deep space, a Mora passenger ship drifted helplessly. Its navigation systems had failed when the network went down. Captain Ziv scanned the emptiness around them. "Any response to our distress signal?" he asked his first officer. "None, Captain. The network is still down." Suddenly, their sensors detected an approaching ship. It wasn't Council design. It was human. The radio crackled. "Mora vessel, this is Earth Ship Samaritan. We detected your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" Captain Ziv hesitated. The Council had forbidden contact with humans, but his ship carried 200 passengers and limited supplies. "Samaritan, "We accept your offer of help," he finally replied. Across council space, more systems failed each day. Power grids fluctuated. Medical equipment malfunctioned. Trade routes became dangerous. And quietly, more calls for help reached Earth. 1 year had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. Jack Williams sat in his office on Mars, watching market data scroll across his screens. As former head trader for interstellar commodities, he understood what the numbers meant better than most. "Look at these coffee prices," he said to his assistant, Diane. "Up 800% in council space." Diane whistled. "Same with wheat, corn, and entertainment feeds." Jack nodded. "Earth goods are now luxury items. And it's not just food. The medical supply chains are breaking down too." On the tourist world of Lyra Prime, hotel owner Zeph closed his doors for the final time. Humans had made up 80% of his visitors. Without them, his business had failed. All across the pleasure planet, businesses were shutting down. Thousands of workers had lost their jobs. Zeph made a difficult decision. He would take his family to Earth. "It's dangerous," his mate warned. "The Council has forbidden travel to human space." "We have no choice," Zeph replied. "There's nothing left for us here." They weren't alone. Across Council space, ships full of economic refugees set course for Earth. People who had lost everything when human tourists, traders, and technical experts disappeared. In the Vraxian military headquarters, General Kraz slammed his claw on the table. "The logistics system is failing again," he shouted at his technical team. "How can we deploy forces if we can't move supplies?" The chief engineer trembled. "The system was designed by human contractors, General. We've tried to modify their code, but it's incredibly complex." The general's mandibles clicked angrily. "Fix it, or you'll be sent to the border colonies." The Vraxian Empire had built its military might on the back of human-designed systems. Now those systems were failing one by one. Near the border between Council and Earth space, a tense situation developed. 20 ships carrying refugees approached the boundary. Behind them, 5 Council military vessels followed. Captain Gary Peters of the Earth Border Patrol ship Guardian watched the approaching vessels. "Orders, sir?" his first officer asked. "The refugee ships are requesting asylum," Gary said. "Council law prohibits citizens from leaving without permission. But Earth law grants refugees safe passage," his officer replied. Gary made his decision. Move to intercept the Council vessels. Position between them and the refugee ships. The Guardian and 3 other Earth ships formed a protective line. The Council vessels approached, weapons charged. "This is Captain Gary Peters of Earth Border Patrol. The refugee ships are under our protection. Any hostile action will be met with force." The Council ships stopped, keeping their weapons ready. Neither side fired, but neither backed down. On Earth, President Rodriguez met with her economic advisors. The reports weren't good. "We've lost 90% of our export markets," said Secretary Wu. "But our internal economy is adapting." "And the refugee situation?" Rodriguez asked. "Growing daily," replied Immigration Director Andy Lopes. "Most are skilled workers from worlds dependent on human trade. They're eager to work." Jack Williams joined the meeting via video link from Mars. "Madam President, Council worlds are starting to reach out privately. Their markets are in chaos without human goods. Have they approached us officially?" she asked. Jack shook his head. "The Chancellor has forbidden it. But there's a black market forming for Earth products. Coffee sells for its weight in precious metals." President Rodriguez considered this information. "Begin preparations to accept more refugees, and quietly let it be known that Earth will welcome trade from independent worlds." On the Council capital, Chancellor Vrek faced growing unrest. Lesser worlds that depended on human tourism and trade were suffering economic collapse. Medical facilities lacked supplies. Food shortages had begun on worlds that relied on human agricultural imports. "The humans planned this," he told his advisors. "They knew how dependent we had become." His senior advisor leaned forward. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our position. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. Never. Increase the sanctions. No council world may trade with Earth. No citizen may travel to human space. But even as he spoke, another ship of refugees slipped past the blockade, heading for Earth and a new beginning. 2 years after humanity's departure from the Galactic Council, Dr. Alan Brooks stood on a stage in Washington, D.C. Behind him, large screens showed images of a barren planet slowly turning green. Today, we announce a breakthrough in terraforming technology, Alan said to the packed auditorium. With our new process, a dead world can become habitable in just 15 years instead of centuries. The crowd applauded. In the back of the room, Sam Rodriguez, brother of President Maria Rodriguez and Earth's newest diplomat, watched with pride. Next to him stood 3 representatives from the Talani, a minor council race. "This is remarkable," whispered Gina, the lead Talani. "The council's scientists have worked on this problem for decades. Earth is happy to share this technology with our new friends," Sam replied. Unknown to most in the room, several beings in the crowd were not invited guests. They wore holographic disguises, appearing human while their true forms were draconians. They were council spies. One spy touched a hidden device, attempting to scan and steal the research data. Immediately, silent alarms triggered. Earth intelligence officers moved through the crowd, quickly surrounding the spies. "Please come with us," said Agent Carl Jones, his voice calm but his hand resting on his weapon. The draconian spy hissed, but didn't resist. Getting caught stealing would cause a diplomatic crisis, but the council needed human technology desperately. On a distant council world called Proxima II, a deadly virus spread through the population. Thousands had died. The medical centers were overwhelmed. Dr. Lena Patel, a human physician who had stayed behind to help, worked without rest. She had developed a treatment, but needed approval from the council to distribute it. "The cure works," she told the council medical authority via video. "I've proven it in over 300 cases." The auxiliary medical director floated in his chamber, tentacles waving nervously. "Your treatment uses human medical technology that hasn't been approved." "People are dying," Lena argued. "Would you rather maintain your regulations or save lives?" The auxiliary hesitated. "We will need to consult with the Chancellor." On Earth, President Rodriguez met with her advisors in the Oval Office. The room was filled with data screens showing council activity. 3 separate council species are suffering from pandemics, reported Health Secretary Betty Warren. "Our doctors could cure all 3 within weeks." "Have they asked for help?" asked the president. "Not officially," Sam Rodriguez said, "but I've had 6 private meetings with representatives begging for medical aid." Defense Secretary William Patil added, "Meanwhile, council scientists have been caught trying to steal our research 12 times this month." Maria Rodriguez looked troubled. "They'd rather steal from us than admit they need our help." "It gets worse," Sam continued. "The council has officially labeled humans as dangerous technology hoarders and increased sanctions." The president stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the gleaming towers of Washington, now home to thousands of alien refugees who had fled council space. "Begin negotiations with any species willing to break from council directives," she decided. "Offer medical aid, technological assistance, and trade agreements." Sam nodded. "The Talani are ready to sign immediately. 5 other species are waiting for our terms." In his private chambers on the council capitol, Chancellor Vrek reviewed the latest reports. They were troubling. Council scientists had made no progress replicating human advances in artificial intelligence, medicine, or material sciences. The elder races had always prided themselves on their superior knowledge. Now they faced the humiliating truth that the humans, whom they had dismissed as primitive, had surpassed them in many fields. "We cannot allow this," Vrek said to his advisors. "Increase funding to our research divisions. We must close the technology gap." An advisor clicked her mandibles nervously. "Chancellor, many are suggesting we should reconsider our position on humans. The Chancellor's compound eyes flashed with anger. Never. Find these human innovations another way. But as he spoke, another council species signed a secret treaty with Earth, becoming the third to break ranks in a month. 3 years after humanity's departure, a new threat emerged from beyond known space. Ships of unknown design attacked the outer worlds of Council territory. No one had seen this alien species before. The Council fleet responded slowly. Without human tactical officers and combat eye, their coordination was poor. 3 Council worlds fell in the first month of attacks. On the bridge of the Earth Ship Defender, now upgraded and serving as the flagship of Earth's growing fleet, Commander Kelly Adams received urgent news. "Commander, we're picking up distress signals from Proxima IV," reported her communications officer. "It's under attack by the new hostile species." Kelly frowned. Proxima IV was a council world, but it had a population of 12 million people. "Are there any council ships responding?" she asked. "Negative. Council forces are spread too thin." Kelly made her decision. "Set course for Proxima IV. Maximum speed. This is a humanitarian mission." When the Defender arrived, the situation was dire. The unknown alien ships bombarded the planet's main city. Thousands of civilians tried to escape in small ships, but enemy fighters targeted them mercilessly. "Launch our fighters," Kelly ordered. "Priority is protecting civilian transports, and prepare our ground teams for evacuation assistance." Earth's advanced fighters engaged the enemy. Their superior speed and weapons quickly pushed back the attackers. On the ground, Earth soldiers helped evacuate civilians to safety. When the last enemy ship retreated, a council official approached Kelly. His scaled face showed both gratitude and shame. "Why did you help us?" he asked. "We're not allies." "We don't need to be allies to save innocent lives," Kelly replied. News of Earth's rescue spread quickly. Other threatened council worlds began sending requests directly to Earth for protection. On his spy ship near Vraxian territory, Earth intelligence agent Paul Martinez monitored communications. He had spent months gathering information. What he discovered was alarming. "Sending encrypted data now," he told his Earth contact. "The Vraxian Empire is preparing a strike against Earth. They plan to attack within 2 months." Back on Earth, President Rodriguez reviewed Paul's evidence with her military advisors. "The Vraxians believe if they destroy our main fleet, the rest of the council will fall in line," explained Defense Secretary Patel. "They won't succeed," Admiral Susan Taylor said confidently. "Our technology is 3 generations beyond theirs now." "We should share this intelligence with our council allies," suggested Sam Rodriguez. "Many species are unhappy with Vraxian leadership." President Rodriguez nodded. "Do it, and move our fleet to defensive positions." When Paul's evidence reached friendly council species, the reaction was immediate. 7 species publicly denounced the Vraxian plan. 3 more secretly contacted Earth about protection agreements. In the council chamber, the Vraxian Chancellor faced open criticism for the first time in decades. "Your leadership has brought us to the edge of collapse," said Calator, the elder Volney representative. "You drove away the humans, whose help we now desperately need against this new enemy." Chancellor Vrek's mandibles clicked angrily. "The humans were never essential. We will defeat these new invaders ourselves." "With what?" asked another representative. "Our communication systems barely function. Our military logistics are in chaos. Meanwhile, a human fleet just saved one of our worlds when our own ships couldn't respond." "Humans are inferior," Vrek insisted. "Their primitive emotional nature makes them unpredictable and dangerous. Yet they show more compassion than you," Calator replied. "While you plan attacks, they rescue our people." That day, 5 more species officially left the Council to form a new alliance with Earth at its center. On the research station orbiting Earth, Dr. Alan Brooks and his team completed work on a revolutionary new faster-than-light drive. It would make travel between stars 10 times quicker than the best Council technology. "Should we announce this publicly?" his assistant asked. Ellen smiled. President Rodriguez thinks it's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do when we're not held back. Across the stars, the balance of power continued to shift. 4 years had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Now, a third of all Council species had signed treaties with Earth. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected. Former human diplomat Nicole Johnson sat at a large round table on the neutral world of Nova Prime. Around her sat representatives from 15 different species. Some had been council members for thousands of years. Others were younger races who had always resented the elder species' control. "This meeting will come to order," Nicole said calmly. "We are here to discuss the formation of a new interstellar alliance." The Talani representative spoke first. "The council is broken. In 4 years without humans, their systems have degraded beyond repair. The Vraxian Empire still controls much of the council fleet," warned the Bolian delegate. "They will not accept a new power in the galaxy." Nicole nodded. "Earth doesn't seek to rule. We propose an alliance of equals, where all voices matter." On the council capital world, Chancellor Vrek called an emergency session. The great chamber was half empty. Many seats sat abandoned, their occupants having left to join talks with Earth. "Traitors!" Vrek shouted, his mandibles clicking furiously. "These deserters abandoned thousands of years of tradition for human promises." The Draconian representative, still loyal to the council, stood up. "Chancellor, perhaps we should consider a diplomatic approach. The humans have shown they are more advanced than we thought." "Never." Vrek slammed his claw on the podium. "The Vraxian Empire has led this council for 10,000 years. We will not bow to primitive apes who only discovered space travel a few centuries ago." Kelator, one of the few elder representatives who remained, shook her gray head sadly. "Pride will be our downfall, Chancellor. The humans have offered peace many times." Vrek's compound eyes flashed with anger. "I'll show you their true nature." He turned to his military commander. "Prepare the fleet. We will remind everyone who rules this galaxy." On Earth, President Rodriguez met with Admiral Susan Taylor. The new Situation Room deep under the White House hummed with activity as staff monitored the galaxy. "The Vraxians are mobilizing their fleet," Susan reported. "Intelligence suggests they plan to attack the peace conference on Nova Prime." Maria Rodriguez had aged during her years as president, but her eyes remained sharp. "How many ships can we deploy to protect the delegates?" 3 battle groups are already in position," Susan answered. "With our new drive technology, we can have 5 more there within hours. And the Vraxians don't know about our speed advantage." Susan shook her head. "No, they expect to arrive before we can respond." The president looked at the star map showing fleet positions. "We won't fire first, but we will protect those delegates." On Nova Prime, the peace talks continued. Nicole Johnson was explaining Earth's proposal for a new galactic cooperative when alarms sounded. "Vraxian warships have entered the system," announced security. 25 vessels approaching. The alien delegates looked worried. The Vraxian Empire had the largest fleet in the council. Many feared this would be the end of their independence movement. Nicole remained calm. "Please continue the discussions. This matter will be handled." Outside the Nova Prime system, Admiral Taylor's flagship Defender waited with a fleet of 50 Earth vessels. The new ships were smaller than Council dreadnoughts, but packed with advanced technology. "Vraxian fleet approaching as expected," reported her tactical officer. "They haven't detected us yet." "Move into blocking position," Susan ordered. "All ships activate shields, but keep weapons powered down. Let's not start a war if we can avoid it." As the Vraxian fleet entered the system, they suddenly found their path blocked by Earth ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. The Vraxian admiral faced a choice: attack or retreat. His pride wouldn't let him back down. Target the human vessels. Show them the might of the Council. But when the Vraxian ships fired, their weapons couldn't penetrate Earth's advanced shields. The Earth fleet didn't return fire. They simply held position, protecting the peace conference. After 3 failed attack runs, the Vraxian fleet retreated in humiliation. Inside the conference hall, Nickel received word of the confrontation. She said nothing to the delegates, but allowed herself a small smile. The era of council domination was over. 5 years after humanity's exit from the Galactic Council, the once mighty organization existed in name only. The Grand Council chamber on the capital world stood nearly empty during sessions. Only the most loyal or desperate species still attended. Chancellor Vrek refused to accept reality. He still opened each meeting with the traditional words, "We, the united species of the galaxy." But there was no unity left. Over half the council races had joined Earth's new galactic cooperative. Others had simply declared independence. Only the Vraxian Empire and its closest allies remained. Then disaster struck at the heart of the council. The Galactic Hub Station, home of the council for over 5,000 years, suddenly lost power. Emergency systems failed. Life support began shutting down. 15,000 beings from dozens of species faced a slow death. In his chambers, Chancellor Vrek received the emergency report. "The primary fusion reactors have failed," his engineer explained. "Backup systems are not responding." "Fix it," Vrek demanded. "Chancellor, we can't," admitted the engineer. "The power systems were upgraded by human engineers 20 years ago. No one understands how they work anymore." Vrek's compound eyes widened with fear. Even he couldn't survive without oxygen. "Send a distress call." "To whom?" asked his aide. Vrek hesitated, pride fighting with survival instinct. Finally, he said, "Earth." On the Defender, Admiral Susan Taylor received the distress call. "The hub station is dying," she told her officers. "They have less than 10 hours of emergency oxygen left." "Is this a trap?" asked her first officer. Susan shook her head. "Scans confirm catastrophic power failure. 15,000 lives are at risk." She made the call to Earth. President Rodriguez responded immediately. "Save everyone you can, Admiral. This is not about politics." Within an hour, 20 Earth ships arrived at the hub station. Engineer Dan Wilson led the rescue team. He had helped design the station's power systems years ago, before humanity left the Council. Dan and his team worked frantically. They'd brought portable generators and oxygen supplies. They evacuated the most vulnerable to Earth ships. Dan personally entered the damaged reactor chamber, risking radiation exposure to make repairs. In the council chamber, now lit only by emergency lights, Chancellor Vrek watched human rescue teams save his people. His pride had nearly killed them all. "Why are they helping us?" he asked Calator, who stood beside him. "We've only shown them contempt." The wise Volney elder replied, "Because that is who they are. Humans help, even when it gains them nothing." After 8 hours of non-stop work, Dan's team restored partial power. The station would survive. Dan exited the reactor room, exhausted but successful. Chancellor Vrek approached him. "You saved us." Dan shrugged. "Just doing my job." "Will you stay and help rebuild the systems permanently?" Vrek asked. Dan shook his head. "No, Chancellor. This is humanitarian aid, not a return to the Council. Earth engineers will provide emergency repairs and technical manuals, but nothing more." The Chancellor's mandibles clicked softly. "I see." As the Earth ships prepared to depart, Vrek faced a moment of truth. The elder races had become dependent on human innovation and problem-solving. Their pride had blinded them to their own weakness. On Earth, President Rodriguez addressed the Global Assembly. Representatives from over 30 former Council species attended, now part of the cooperative. "Today we showed that humanity will not abandon those in need, even former adversaries," she said. "But we will not return to a system that treats us as lesser beings." The Assembly applauded. Among them sat many refugees who had fled Council worlds years earlier, now productive citizens of Earth's expanding influence. John Miller, the ambassador who had led humanity's departure and now served as Earth's chief diplomat, smiled from his seat. The galaxy was learning a valuable lesson. Elsewhere in space, the Vraxian Empire prepared one final desperate move against Earth. Their pride would accept no other option. They didn't realize they were already too late. 10 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. Now a new era dawned as representatives from 123 species gathered on the neutral world of Eden Prime. The new headquarters of the Galactic Cooperative gleamed in the morning sunlight. Unlike the imposing council tower, this building was circular, with no species seated above others. All were equal here. Earth President Maria Rodriguez, now in her second term, stood at the center of the great chamber. Time had added silver to her hair, but her voice remained strong. "Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples," she said. "No longer will any species claim superiority over others. No longer will innovation be stifled by tradition. Together we will build a better future." Behind her stood John Miller, the ambassador who had led humanity's exit from the Council years ago. Now he would serve as the first Secretary General of the Cooperative, elected by unanimous vote. In the audience sat many who had played roles in the Great Change. Engineer Lisa Chen, whose communication network now connected all cooperative worlds. Captain Susan Taylor, now Admiral of the Joint Defense Fleet. Dr. Alan Brooks, whose terraforming technology had given new homes to millions of refugees. The old council was gone. After the failure of their desperate military strike against Earth, the Vraxian Empire had collapsed from within. Chancellor Vrek had been removed by his own people, who wanted peace and progress more than pride. The elder races still existed, of course. Some had joined the cooperative, humbled but welcome. Others maintained independence. All had learned that dismissing humans as primitive had been their greatest mistake. After the ceremony, John Miller stood on a balcony overlooking the new capital city. Lisa Chen joined him. "Did you know it would turn out this way?" she asked. John shook his head. "No. When we left, I only knew we deserved better treatment. And now we lead the galaxy." "Not lead," John corrected her. "We work together with others. That's what the Vraxians never understood. Real strength comes from cooperation, not control." On a view screen nearby, they'd watched reports from across the cooperative. New colonies thriving with mixed species populations. Trade routes bustling with activity. Research teams combining knowledge from dozens of cultures to solve ancient problems. The new alien species that had threatened the outer worlds had been pushed back by the combined cooperative fleet. Now peace talks were underway. The cycle of conquest and domination was ending. Former council scientist Calator approached John and Lisa. The elderly Volney moved slowly now, but her mind remained sharp. "I should thank you both," she said. "For what?" John asked. "For having the courage to walk away." Calator's eyes showed wisdom gained through difficult lessons. Sometimes a system must break before it can be rebuilt properly. That evening, a celebration filled the streets of the new capital. Species that had once been enemies now danced together, shared food, and told stories of their worlds. In her office, President Rodriguez met with the former Vraxian ambassador, now representing his people in the cooperative. "My people owe humans an apology," he said, mandibles moving gently in a gesture of respect. "We called you primitive, but you showed greater wisdom than races 10 times your age." Maria smiled. "The past is behind us. We look to the future now." As stars appeared in the night sky, John Miller looked up and remembered the day he had walked out of the council chamber. Walking away had been difficult and frightening. Many had called it a mistake. But sometimes walking away was necessary to create something better. Sometimes systems had to fall apart before they could be rebuilt the right way. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply shown it a better path. And in doing so, they had found their rightful place among the stars.